I recently had a clear out in my garage and I came across my oddments of glass from when I used to do stained glass work. And I thought, I could make that into a project. But before I do that, what I want to do is turn it into some sea glass. Now, if you haven't got a tumbler, then you can buy sea glass or you can collect it. But it's really easy to get hold of and it's fairly cheap. Now, these are all quite square pieces and I don't want them to be that square. So what I'm doing is I'm just popping them inside this Amazon envelope I've got here and I'm breaking them up. Now, some bits are going to be large, some bits are going to be small, but I don't want them to be really a uniform square shape. And I'm keeping all the bits, including the little bits as well. So I've broken that all up now into roughly the sizes that I want. What I'm going to do is pop that in my tumbler. Large bits and small bits. And now I'm going to add some sand. I've got some fine white sand here and some more rougher, like multicoloured sand. I don't know what sort of sand that is. I'm going to add quite a lot, even though the glass knocking together will also give it a shape. And now I'm going to put enough water in there to cover that sand and glass. I have no idea if this is going to work, but we will see. If it doesn't work, then all I'll do is I'll replace the sand with one of my large size grits that I would use for polishing stones. I'm going to pop the lid on. I just want it to take the rough edges off it and to give it that, not polished look, but that scratched look all over. Well, my sea glass has been going around now for about 3 days, so that's ready for me to take a look at. And I put a second one in, which was an opaque one. So all the glass was opaque rather than transparent. So now I can just tip all this out and we can give it a bit of a wash and see what it's going to come out like. None of it should be sharp anymore because it should have all had its edges taken off and turned into something a lot smoother. Remember, never pour any of this type of liquid down your sinks. Always dispose of it responsibly, possibly outside in your garden. It's not going to hurt in your garden. It's only a mixture of sand and some very fine glass powder. We've got some hot water here and all I'm going to do is put a nice dollop of good old washing up liquid in there to clean these off with. I'm going to pour them in and let them soak in there for a few minutes and then give them a twist round. Once they're twisted round and I feel they're clean and all the bits off it, I can then just take them out. Look how lovely and smooth that one is. Just take them out, lay them on some paper towel and let them dry, and we can then see how well they've turned into sea glass. Well, that's all lovely and dry now, and it has turned into beautiful sea glass. And it's not too opaque, some of it. Although the opaque glass has really come out well, as I'm actually quite pleasantly surprised. Now, some of these pieces, the interesting shaped ones, so for instance, that sort of shape, I really like that one, that shape. Those sorts of pieces, what I'll do is some wire wrapping on those and turn them into some wire wrapped either necklaces or earrings, especially with the smaller ones. And I'll do a project on that in a few weeks' time for you so you can see. And you can do that with any sea glass. Well, this table was going to be thrown away because it used to have a piece of glass in the top here, but that got broken somehow. So it was going to be thrown away, and I don't want it to be thrown away. So what I'm going to do is make a new top, but not out of glass, out of something else, which I'll show you in a second. I've cut out a template of the size, that was easy to do, of the piece of wood that I want fit in there. So I know exactly what size to cut, and I've got a piece of scrap wood. Now, this is an ideal size. It's not an ideal thickness. It really could have done with it being a little bit thinner than that, but I don't want to go out and spend a lot of money on this, so this will have to do. If when I've put it in I don't like it, then I will have to think about perhaps changing it. So all I'm going to do is pop my pattern on there like that, line it up with those edges, and then I can mark it out and I know what size it's got to be. So now I've got that marked out, all I need to do is cut it out, and I'm going to be using my jigsaw for this. So now I've got that cut out, what I can do is check that that fits in my table, and it does. It fits in there nicely. And now I'm just going to quickly go around and sand it off so I've got none of these little rough bits. And you can get offcuts like this at most DIY shops and places like that where they've cut bits and they've had bits left over for people. And often if you go in with the size that you want, they will cut it for you as well. And now I've got my sea glass that I've been making, and after I made that last lot, I carried on and made loads of it to be able to do a little pattern on here. And I'm going to show you how I'm going to do that. Well, I've chosen the pieces that I'm going to put round the edge. What I want to try and do is avoid having to cut any. Now, I've got quite a lot of pieces here, large and small, and I've got some very small pieces here. So if I can do it without cutting any, I think it's going to be better because it's going to have those smoother sides to it. What I'm going to use to glue this down is wood glue, and that's why I've not treated any of this surface other than give it a sand down. And wood glue is really, really cheap. And how I'm going to do that is I'm going to smear it on the base quite liberally because it goes clear once it's dry, like that, and then push it down and let it dry. I'm going to do the whole of the outside first before I tackle the inside, because the thing is, I'm going to treat it like a jigsaw puzzle because really I have no idea what I'm doing. But it doesn't matter, does it? That's what crafting's all about. It's about having a go. I suppose I could look it up, but that's not me, is it? So quite a lot on the back there of this wood glue. And the reason I'm using wood glue and not normal just PVA glue is wood glue is just that little bit, I find, thicker. And because it'll dry clear, any of these bits that are a bit translucent, and quite a few of them are, then it will show the nice wood through it. So I'm going to go around, I'll finish all those off, and then I'll come back and show you what I'm going to do to fill in the middle. So I've drawn my square in there. I just cut another template like this out and drew a square in. And I've got loads of these, and I think they'll look really, really nice with something symmetrical in there. Now I'm laying these slightly different because I'm putting a bead of glue down first, and then putting these right up to my line. And then I can have a look and see what I think of it once it's done. I think I'm going to like it. Now I'm pushing these right up against each other because of the shape they are. You can put the grout in really easily afterwards anyway. Well, I finished those off and I did a double row in the end because I thought it looked nicer. Now what I'm going to do is just go through and fill it in all the way on the outside. Doing exactly the same method as I did going around the outside. I don't really want to have to cut any bits. So what I'm going to do is try and fit bits in where I can, which I think will look nice. So for instance, I've got these bits here. I need to, at the moment, find some sort of shape that's going to go there. And I can do something like that and then put a small piece in there. And then I'll carry on building it up all the way around in that same method. Well, now I've finished all the outside ones and these ones are put in. I'm really like the contrast between these smaller squares and these larger ones. So what I'm going to do is fill this up a little bit more with some of these smaller ones. So I've got a much bigger area of smaller ones, and then put some of these in the center. So you've got the sea glass, the tiles, and then some sea glass. Well, I'm now ready to put the grout in, and I always think the grout really does finish this off lovely. And I'm just using a white waterproof grout that came ready mixed. And really, grouting is so much fun. My grout has got a little bit lumpy while it's been stored, but that's not a major problem because I'll just take those lumps out. And the best way to put your grout in is put it on quite liberally to start with, and then scrape as much off as you possibly can. It just saves so much time with the cleanup later on. And I know it looks a bit messy at this stage, but really the grout makes it look awesome. And I'm using a plastic spatula. I'm using a plastic spatula here because I don't want to scrape something metal over this glass that I've used. And do you know what? This has been one of the most satisfying projects I have done in such a long time. Really enjoyed it. And even though I had no real fixed design or pattern, every piece just fit in really, really well. It was like putting together a jigsaw, and it was so pleasurable. So definitely give it a go, even if it's on something as small as coasters or something like that. And to make cleaning up much easier, once this is all dry, I've left this for about 10 minutes, and now all I've got is a damp sponge, and I'm going to go over this with a damp sponge like this and remove as much of that excess as I can while it's still wet, while that grout is still wet, because that makes life so much easier for cleaning up. But it also makes the bits in between look so much neater as well. Kind of finishes them off. And then we can put that to one side and let that dry up properly before we give it its final clean. So while that's drying and getting ready for me to give it its final clean and pop it on here, what I'm going to do is give this table a clean as well. And so I need to take it apart for that. And what I can then do is clean up all the frame and the sides and then give it a bit of a new spray, I think, because it's looking a little bit tired and worse for wear. So now I've got that all apart, what I'm going to do is take these two bits into the shower and give these a good shower down and a scrub, and take these outside, the frame outside, after I've given it a clean, and spray it with some black gloss spray paint. And then I'll show you what it looks like. But that's all nice and dry now, and the actual grouting inside is dry. So what I'm going to do is I've got one of these non-scratch scourers. I'm going to wet it up into some soapy water, and now go over all the pieces and give them a bit of a clean and a buff up, and that will come up lovely. Doesn't take many minutes. Look, once you've got that going, that will soon get that off, and then I'll put the frame together that I've sprayed and show you what it all looks like finished. I put it all back together, it's all finished, all sprayed and lovely and clean. I am so pleased with it. I'm pleased that I didn't throw it away, and I'm pleased I made that top for it. Like I said, it was a little bit thicker, but I don't actually mind that. I painted the edges black. I've given it all a good clean up. Lovely waterproof grout, so if it's outside, it should be fine. I think I would probably pay about, if I bought this now in the UK, it'd probably cost me well over £100 to have that sort of top on it and this sort of table. So I'm really pleased with that, because actually it's cost me virtually nothing. I had everything and I made my own tumbled glass. Just cleaned the frame. Hope you've enjoyed this. Definitely give it a go. It's really worth it. I loved every second of it. I'm going to do some more mosaicing, I think. Something a little bit more technical. I'll link everything in the description below. Check out the video that I'll be having up next, and boot that like button, hit that subscribe button, but most of all, enjoy your crafting. Take care. Bye.